This is episode number 154. Red Podcast is back with a new format and new focus. I've got 3 reasons why you're going to want to listen and 1 reason why you won't. That's coming up.
This is the Red Podcast. How to take your idea and make a name for yourself within your industry and beyond. Spread your message. Attract a following. Rise above the noise. Here's your host, David Hooper.
Welcome to the all-new Red Podcast, the podcast formerly known as Real Entrepreneur Development. You may be wondering, what does RED stand for now? It doesn't stand for anything. It stands for whatever you want it to stand for. So if you've got ideas, send them to me on Twitter. @The Red Podcast is my username. Happy to listen to your ideas. You know, one thing that it could stand for, which I'm going to help you do, is how to reach, how to expand, and how to develop your audience. This is the podcast for influencers. If you're a blogger, a podcaster, a speaker, marketer, maybe a nonfiction author or other creative entrepreneur, you've got a message that you want to share, a philosophy, you want to take an idea and expand upon it, make a name for yourself. That's what this podcast is about. Welcome. You're in the right place. On this episode, I'll be talking about 3 reasons why you'll want to stick around and listen to Red 2.0. I'll also give you 1 reason why you might want to unsubscribe and go somewhere else. I want to start out talking about my philosophy. It's called 23 Hours, and I've actually got a blog with this same domain, same name, 23hours.com, if you're interested in that. One day I'm hanging out with Tom Johnson from the Doobie Brothers, and we were talking about gigs, why people pay him. This guy's still on the road. He's been doing it for 40 years. It's amazing. And he explained to me his success philosophy. And he said, David, people aren't paying me for the hour that I'm on stage. They're paying me for the 23 hours that it takes to get there. And I love that philosophy so well because we all know that. We all know that the hour that we work, if you're a consultant, maybe you give somebody a book, you sell them a book, but it took so much work to get to that point where you could write the book, record the album. We all understand as creators that they're not paying us for paper on ink. They're not paying us for a plastic disc with music on it or a download of 1s and 0s. They're paying us for what it took to create that. And that's not just in the creative industry. All creative entrepreneurs, that's for you. If you're a blogger, podcaster, speaker, if you're a marketer, those skills don't just happen overnight. We're not born with them. Nobody's born and has a birth announcement that says, here is the best podcaster ever. Here's the best blogger ever. Here's the best author ever. Those skills are developed, and it takes a long time to get them. There's an old joke about consultants that I feel really explains this philosophy well. A consultant walks into a factory. He's trying to make the factory run more efficiently. And he looks at, we'll call it a dashboard. There's a lot of gauges. And he sees one that's not working like it should. So he taps on it. Starts lighting up. Problem solved. Consultant walks out of the building, hasn't been there more than 15 minutes. A week later, he sends the factory an invoice. Consulting work, $10,000. Factory guy calls him up. Whoa. I think you sent us the wrong invoice. You're only here for 15 minutes. Got a bill for $10,000. And the consultant tells him, oh, I'm so sorry. I did send you the wrong invoice. My apologies. I'll get the new one right over. A couple days later, the new invoice appears, and here's what it said. It wasn't $10,000 for consulting. It was $1 for tapping on the gauge and $9,999 for knowing which gauge to tap. That's really what the 23 hours philosophy is about. That's what your business is about. It's the knowledge and the skills that it takes for you to do what you do. And this podcast, Red 2.0, that's about developing these skills. And there are a lot of them. I'm going to show you some tricks from the music industry and the entertainment industry that I've learned to boost your credibility so you can be the obvious expert, the go-to guy that people think about, and become not just a commodity, but the guy that people go to. You can charge more money that way. I'm going to show you how to have an audience in waiting, just waiting for your next product to come out. Imagine that. You've got an audience of hungry subscribers, hungry listeners, hungry readers, people that can't wait for you to contact them. It's not a burden when you contact them. They're asking you why you're not contacting them more often. They've got their credit cards ready, and they're ready to spend money with you. So you can make an income that you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry about the fluctuating ups and downs of being a creative entrepreneur. You don't have to worry about, are people going to like your new book? It's going to be based on becoming who you are and who they want you to be, rather than what you do. A lot of people are writing books. What separates the successful authors from the non-successful authors? It's all about developing those skills. Here are a few examples of the skills that I'm going to help you to develop via Red Podcast. How to craft compelling messages that people want to hear. Like I mentioned, people waiting for you to reach out to them. When you send an email, even if somebody's not waiting, they certainly can't ignore it because of who you are. How to connect with people in a meaningful way. I'm going to show you how to make people love you. I don't want people to not care one way or the other whether you email them, whether you reach out to them, whether you release a new book, a new product, create a new podcast. I want them to love you, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. I'm going to show you how to do things that can't be denied, that can't be ignored, so that even if people don't like you, they will respect you. You know what I'm talking about. There are those bloggers, those authors, those TV personalities that we all know don't really like, but you have to give them respect for having a big audience, making a lot of money, having a long career. That is a position that I want to put you in, and that's the position that you're going to be in when you keep listening to Red Podcast. Who is it for? Bloggers, podcasters, speakers, marketers, nonfiction authors, creative entrepreneurs. I call you influencers. If you got a message, if you got something that you want to spread, I'm going to help you do that. I was originally going to call this a show for creative entrepreneurs. A couple problems with that, though. One, with my background in the music industry, it's not all that I've done. I've also worked with a lot of nonfiction authors. I've worked a lot on television and film. But coming from that creative base, I didn't want people to think that that's all that I do. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs as well. And what I call creative entrepreneurs are the people that are coming up with ideas. They use those ideas to make a name for themselves. And then, based on those ideas, they develop personality. They do the same thing these entertainers are doing. They get people to events. They sell those ideas through records. They sell those ideas through digital content, books, seminars, and they make a living and are known within the industry that they choose. That's what I'm going to help you with. If you want to successfully spread a message or a philosophy, this is a podcast that will help you. If you've got an idea and you want to successfully monetize it, this is a podcast that will help you. And beyond that, and this is something that a lot of people don't think about, but I think about it a lot because of my background in the entertainment industry, I'm going to show you how to make a name for yourself. So if you want to do that within your industry and beyond, because it's one thing to do it offline, but think about when you go offline. Offline is a huge world. Online, no doubt that you've heard the phrase 6 degrees of separation. There may be 2 degrees of separation when you're talking about an online niche. Everybody knows everybody else. Listen, let's get you bigger than that. Let's take you offline. If you're online now and you want to get offline, this is the podcast that will help you. Now, why this philosophy? Kind of hinted at this. I've spent the last 2 decades working with people just like you. They had an idea. They wanted to spread that idea. They had a message. They wanted to spread that message. They happened to do that in the music, film, TV, and book markets. Very specific markets, a lot of them entertainment-based. But this works for any industry. And they wanted to build an audience over which they had influence. That's what I'm going to help you do. Let me give you an example. Nonfiction authors, I've worked with dozens of them. What are the goals of a nonfiction author? Well, from a business perspective, a writer wants to know that he can release a book and without worry, have it sell. That's the business perspective. So wouldn't that be great if you could release a product, come out with a podcast, instantly have sales, instantly have listeners? That's what I'm going to help you do on Red Podcast. On the other hand, you've also got a philosophy. Nonfiction author, he wants to spread his message. There's a philosophical part of the equation. He doesn't want you to just buy his book. He also wants you to read his book. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. We're going to take care of the sales process, taking your ideas, making sure people buy them, making sure people listen. But I'm also going to show you the philosophical part, taking those ideas and making change. You've got something that you want to see done. Maybe you're a minister, you want to convert more people to your religion. This podcast will help you. Maybe you want to show people how to make more money. This podcast will help you. I'm agnostic when it comes to your philosophy. My job is to help you to spread your message, and that is what the New Red Podcast is about. Imagine if you could write a book, record a podcast, book a speaking engagement. That book, it would be sold. People would read it. People would love it. Podcast, you put it all out there. People not only download it, but they love it. The speaking gig, you can go to any town and people are going to show up for it. That's what this is about. I'm going to take you by the hand. We're going to go over what you need to do to make these things happen in your business. So let me get to the 3 reasons why you should listen, and also 1 if you want to unsubscribe right now. Number 1 is that this is not theory. There are a lot of marketing podcasts out there. They're telling you how to make money online, grow an audience, blah, blah, blah. These are guys with day jobs, though. They don't know. They've got this day job to fall back on. Me, I've been self-employed for 20 years. I know the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. I know how difficult it can be to spread your message, to get people to events, to get them to purchase your books or purchase your downloadable material. That's why hundreds of people and companies have come to me to help them to spread their messages. This is not theory. This is what works. I've done it. I continue to do it. And that's reason number 2. I'm in the trenches with you. This is what's working now. This isn't me looking back on the glory days of something or looking back 5 or 10 years ago and telling you what used to work or how cool I used to be or how much money that I used to make. This is what is working now. I'm not an executive at some big-ass company that had a huge staff that was out of touch with what you're going through. I am you. I'm there with my own philosophy. Red Podcast is part of this. I've got books. I'm out speaking all the time. I am you. I'm in the trenches with you. It's not like I've got some huge staff. Do I have people that help me? Yeah, they do. But I'm paying for them with my own money. I know how tough it is. I know what it's like to have that mortgage due every month. I know what it's like to have to provide for your family. I know what it's like to have a payroll that you have to make because you've got employees counting on you. I'm right there with you. And we're going to get through this together because I've successfully done it for 20 years. It can be done. Red Podcast is going to help you do it. Number 3, I play with my own money. When I write a book and a book comes out with my name on it, I publish it myself. I've had a major publishing deal, walked away from it. Something a little bit more recent, had a major podcasting network, initials that you would recognize. They came to me recently, turned them down. Not a match. I want to do it on my own. I've got more control. I value that. I value making my own decisions. When I win, I like to take credit for it. When I lose, I don't mind taking credit for that either. If you're the same way, this is the podcast for you. Let's get to that final reason. The one that I said is the reason why you might want to unsubscribe. And that is because I play the edges. If you've read my blog, 23hours.com, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't read it, go take a look, 23hours.com. That's the kind of content that I'm going to be talking about here. Some of the topics, some of the industries that we're going to look into and analyze and find out how they work. You may not agree with those industries. Some of the comments that I'm going to make, you might not agree with. The politics, the philosophy, how I approach things. You might feel that some of these things are manipulative. We might not agree on everything. And if you're one of those people that has to preach to the choir, that has to hang out with people that you agree with, if you're one of those people, you get on Facebook and you see somebody who thinks a little bit differently than you do, and you find yourself getting agitated, and you've got to get into a conversation with them and tell them why you feel the way that you do. This podcast is probably not for you. And I'm not saying that these philosophies and these things are all going to come from me. I'm bringing in all sorts of different people from all sorts of different industries. The purpose of this podcast is to find out what works when it comes to influencing people, when it comes to building an audience, when it comes to growing a business, when it comes to making money, and really doing it, not just the theory. This is not milquetoast stuff. where I'm going to tell you to polish your shoes and give a good firm handshake and always tell your wife that you love her because she's so important to you. This isn't that. You can get that everywhere. This is stuff that you have not heard elsewhere. I'm digging deep. I'm going to the edges, and we're going to find some things that you haven't thought about, but are going to help you in your business. If you're interested, stick around. If this makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, unsubscribe now. No hard feelings. I mentioned earlier, I always try to be approachable. Feel free to reach out to me, even if you're not a subscriber to Red Podcast. You can always reach out to me on Twitter. I'm happy to answer any questions about building an audience, growing a business, anything related to that. The psychology, at David Hooper is my username. I get back to everybody, so feel free to do that. I hope you'll stick around. I've got a lot of great stuff. You've got questions, you've got comments about the new format, at David Hooper on Twitter. That's the best place to reach me. If you're not subscribed, redpodcast.com is how to do that. Thank you so much for listening. I'm very excited about the new format for Red Podcast. Glad that you're here. Glad that you made it to the end. I think that says something about you and where we're going to go together. If you want to help me build the Red community, you like this, you're excited about it, and you're engaged, tell a friend. Tell them to go to redpodcast.com. I've got over 150 back episodes from the old format. This is the foundation of your business. We talk about book publishing deals, how to sell live events, what happens when you're in a cash crunch and you need money quickly. All of those things are available to you at redpodcast.com. Again, thanks so much for listening. I'm looking forward to the journey with you on Red 2.0, and I'll see you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Red Podcast, Real Entrepreneur Development. Subscribe today using iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS at redpodcast.com.